Good evening. It's March 24th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. and I would like to call to order the meeting of the Lisle Community Unit School District 202 Board of Education. Could we please have a roll call?
Yes. Mr. Lesniak?
Present.
Mr. Nagler?
Here.
Ms. DiDomenico?
Present.
Ms. Foster?
Present.
Mr. Helderly?
Present.
Ms. Sims is here, and Ms. Allman?
Here, thank you. Could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is a reading of our mission statement, and the Lisle 202 mission statement is to provide our learning community with the essential education, skills, and experiences for future success. We'll keep those thoughts in mind as we meet this evening. Next on our agenda, I will turn this over to Mr. Martzoff. We're having our student recognition this evening for the State Culinary State Championship.
They're not recognizing me, they're recognizing you. Good evening. It is my honor to represent Lisle High School and to recognize Delilah Noriega for her accomplishments in her competition with the Technology Center of DuPage culinary team. Her and the team of 5 competed and won the Illinois State Pro Start competition, the Invitational. So she is a state championship, or she earned the state championship rather, in this baking competition, this culinary competition. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about her actual role. But overall, she competed against 11 other schools, the team, not just her, she competed against 11 other schools. They won, and now they get to go to Baltimore to compete in the national competition. Well, she'll talk to you about what she cooked. Don't sleep on her. You will see her in Top Chef. Let me tell you, she has the culinary skills. She is such a fantastic young lady with a huge heart. This afternoon, she shared with me, I was lucky enough to score one of these cupcakes that she made for the TCD bus driver's birthday. And so she took it upon herself to make the cupcakes. I made them, as I was sharing with people outside, I made the mistake of cutting it in force and sharing it with other people. I wanted it back as soon as I took my first bite. It is absolutely fantastic. Her skills are outstanding, and like I said, she's going to do great things when she graduates here. So you can talk a little bit more about what you did.
Well, I was a part of the appetizer. I made a lump crab salad with QP mayo, sriracha, and I made a Napa cabbage slaw. It was tossed in an Asian citrus vinaigrette. On the side, it had avocados and butter poached king crab and torched, and that's what I made. The day I was so nervous. I was so nervous. I woke up at 5 a.m. I couldn't go back to sleep. I was just so excited. And once I got to Cisco, and I started and I heard that timer start, my mind went blank. My body automatically took over since I practiced for so many months and for so long. When I did it, I didn't even notice an hour has passed, and once I finished, I felt so relieved, so proud of myself that I've completed this. Ever since I was young, I started cooking when I was 7 years old, and ever since I loved it. I've never stopped. I always try to find more recipes to do, mix and match. I always cook for my family all the time, and I love it. Especially my favorite part about cooking is giving it to people and receiving feedback and compliments. I just feel very joyful with cooking, and I love it so much. And this competition is going to help me in the future, especially with I want to open a restaurant when I'm older. And this is a huge step for me, especially for when I go to school, look for jobs, and start on with my career.
Congratulations.
Fantastic. Delilah, we're very proud of you, and congratulations. Let us know where that restaurant will be, whatever time we will be there. I also want to mention, I know your key role was in preparing that appetizer, the lump crab appetizer. I'm going to a party on Friday. I'm supposed to bring an appetizer. I was gonna bring chips and dip, but maybe I can get together and find a better recipe rather. So thank you very much for coming, and we're just very, very proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And your family is welcome to stay. Thank you. Thanks for being here to support her.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
School age, kindergarten. I'm hungry again.
All right. Number 5 on our agenda is our public comment, and we do have one blue card request from Stephanie Trussell. And Stephanie, I think you've spoken before and know there's a 3-minute time frame, but
Yes.
go on with whatever you would like to present.
Hi. I was pretty excited when I had realized that I had an opportunity to share with my daughter, my 9-year-old granddaughter, a chance to see Mean Girls, the musical. Much to my dismay, I wrongly assumed that it would be edited, making it appropriate for all ages. This morning, my favorite radio host recounted how his wife had taken his 3 small children to see their high school production of The Wizard of Oz. I immediately began dreading preparing to speak tonight. I wish Lyle Senior High School had chosen something wholesome and family-friendly. Unfortunately, according to the playbill, the director and the principal decided to make a deliberate shift from the recent classic feel-good shows. They wanted to offer students a contemporary experience with different technical demands and one that directly addresses themes prevalent in their lives. When the first bad words were spoken, I grabbed my playbill. There was no PG-13 warning. At that time, I didn't know the rating was listed on the ticket page. Someone else in my family had purchased the tickets. I lost count of how many times the B word, two-gator function, and dyke was used. And I'm sorry, I don't use that language, but the cast even used damn, hell, and the S word. Even if my granddaughter was 13, I would have been just as uncomfortable. It was my idea to attend the show, and I immediately felt guilty for exposing my granddaughter to very sexual, obscene content. The next day, I sent an email to each member of the school board, the principal, and the superintendent. Not everyone replied. The principal responded immediately and met with me that following Friday. He told me that 51 edits had been made to soften the script. I thought, why not make 61 to remove all the profanity? During our meeting, I was told that I was the only one that complained. The responses from the board members that I did get made it seem like it was a me problem. My granddaughter's parents graduated from Lyle High School in 2003. I find it very hard to believe that the principal at that time would have approved such content. In 5 short years, my granddaughter will be at the high school, and I wonder what will be considered contemporary. Orange is the new black? I don't know. My advice to the high school is that they should go back to feel-good content because we need something to feel good in this day and age. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. You know, we've had several correspondence back and forth, and I respond on behalf of the Board of Education, and I believe Dr. Filipiak and the principal did, but we appreciate you being here. Thank you. Okay, next, were there any other public comments online, or? Okay, thank you. Brings us to our item 6, which is our agenda item. 6A is our consent agenda. 6A1 are the board meeting minutes. 6A2, payroll pay orders. 6A3, vendor pay orders. 6A4, personnel. 6A4A, certified employment. 6A4B, certified resignation. 6A4C, classified resignation. 6A4D, extra duty employment. 6A4E, extra duty resignation. 6A5, resolution for dismissal of probationary teachers and reduction in force. 6A6, memberships in IHSA. 6A7, DuPage West Cook Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement Amendment Resolution. 6A8, Official School Calendar 2026-2027. 6A9, Intergovernmental Agreement with the Lisle Park District. 6A10, Contract Renewal Agreement for Food Service Management Company for school year 2025 to 2026. 6A11, Audit Services Engagement Letter for fiscal year 2025, fiscal year 2026, and fiscal year 2027. 6A12, Lisle Junior High RTU Replacement and Theater Stair Renovations Contract. And 6A13, Approval of the Board of Education Annual Policy Review. Do we have any,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead. You wanted,
To pull 6A8, official school
6A8.
calendar discussion.
okay. Do you want to have that discussion? Why don't we have that discussion and then we can
Yep.
go through? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so looking at the calendar for the 26-27, the last day of the year is a Friday. The first day is we call Thursday. And I just have some questions. There's 86 and 90. I know we try to keep it even. I generally have, when the last day is a Friday, often we have at least one snow day, and I think I asked for like roughly the snow days from the last 3 years. When it pushes over a weekend, especially Memorial Day weekend, which is not the case in 2027, is that it's sort of like everyone get ready and then come back for one day of school. K-8, to me, the last couple days are more about celebration and transition, which is all part of education and moving on to the next level. High school, of course, there's some effects with finals. But if there's ways that we can do to make it where the school year does not go over one day of a weekend, or the last weekend, especially a Memorial Day weekend, are there things that we can do? And I think in prior meeting I mentioned, can we do some like snow days and then a combination of snow days initially and then remote learning? One other idea that I came across talking to a friend from Sandwich is that they take we call it Spring Holiday or Good Friday, and that becomes like the first snow day. And therefore, if we look at historically, I think we had 3 last year, but in lots of cases, I think it's often 1 or 2. Often one, is that we sort of build in that buffer so that we have a snow day. And we've had a lot of discussion over the value of a remote learning day, which is very different from a kindergartner through a 12th grader, but there could be some compromises there so that, we don't have, these days, the year being pushed over a weekend by a single day. And so I just wanted other board members' thoughts on that.
I want to talk about the snow day piece. I think we did a really good job of sending the survey out. I think we need to honor the feedback from the community and stick with that. And if maybe we give that option maybe on the next survey, I think that's fine. But I think for what the survey is now, it was a pretty clear response for snow days. So I think we need to honor that.
Yeah, for this school year, yeah, we're past that. I don't think we're going to have, hopefully, no snow days or cold days at this point. But, it's something we want for the 25-26, and this is, of course, the 26-27. If we want to come back and revisit that and look at that survey to maybe adjust it for what other options people would be interested in. We do have, a lot of feedback I'm getting now from a lot of, friends and constituents is like, can we have remote learning days? Because all our neighbors are doing it. And I don't think that's necessarily the right answer just because our neighbors are doing it that we do it, but we have kind of a discussion and see if there's a compromise in there, for the schedules, so.
Dr. Filipiak, when we sent out that survey, was it just for this current school year? I can't recall the details on it.
It's sent out on an annual basis, so
Annual
I think
basis,
for the
okay.
foreseeable future, we will continue to send that out because we've gotten a lot of responses.
Yeah.
Is there anything contractually, building on the idea of the March 26th date or the Good Friday date, is there anything contractually that would be an issue with?
Good Friday is a holiday.
Mhm.
It is considered a holiday. So for our SEAL employees, I believe we would need a waiver if we were going to take that day. If we were not going to take that day, excuse
Right.
me. So, and I understand your thinking of maybe have it as a backup if we do have a snow day. The only thing for consideration is that generally if people are making their spring break plans ahead of time and they know we have Good Friday off, I'm sure they're going to include that Good Friday as part of their time off. And then for us to flip and say, oh, wait, it's a school day, I'm not sure that that would be well received. The only other thing too, I think may have been brought up is trying to at least to create that balance of the first semester and the second semester. First semester having 86 attendance days, second semester having 90 attendance days. One of the things we always kind of consider for that second semester is testing at the high school. There are 10 test days for high school students, or for high schools. 10 of those days are AP testing. AP testing, there's testing in the morning and there's testing in the afternoon. Not that every student takes that many tests, not that they take one in the morning and then one in the afternoon, but during that 2-week period, they could have 3 to 4 to 5 testing days, depending on how many AP classes they have. So obviously, if there's a test, they're losing that AP instruction, they're losing just general instruction, and it disrupts the schedule. There's also ACT testing for all 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. So when we try to take that balance, there's always a little more days in the second semester to take into account those instructional days that are missed for testing. So again, that's 11 days. So.
I think you can go ahead.
I was going to say, if I remember correctly, on that survey that came out, a lot of the high school parents, weren't they more in favor of the e-learning when there was a snow day? And I know that we've said as a district, we want to try to stay on the same days off as a whole district, but I know we do things like conferences where we're off for the high school and the junior high in October, I think, and then the elementary is November for conferences. So is there something we could do just for one school or 2 schools, that would maybe use that if the parents are wanting that?
The parent-teacher conference days offset each other because they're both getting the early release day and then the conference day. So that equals out. I don't know that it's significant that they're in different months because the time in school is the same. But if you had a completely different situation where half of your district was snow day, I honestly don't even think that would work. I don't think this state would approve it, to have half of your district do one thing and half do the other.
I was just going to add that it was several years ago, I think, when we moved the start date up sooner, and that was so that the high school testing could be accomplished before winter break for continuity.
For finals, correct.
And there were various concerns about moving it earlier.
Correct.
To start, it was the middle of summer and we're going back to school. So I think there are concerns both ways. There's, positives and, I certainly understand the after Memorial Day issue. But I think we would also have parents who are concerned about starting earlier.
And as Mr. Helderly said, for that 26-27 school year, Memorial Day happens to fall late that year. It's a whole nother week later. So yes, it could be on a Monday or Tuesday, but it's at least not interfering with the Memorial Day that year.
Yeah, it's been my experience that using 5 emergency days happened once in 26 years. So, and ending on a Friday, ending on a Monday, Tuesday, there's that end of the year exuberance, and it doesn't matter what day you end on, you're going to encounter that, so.
I think it's good to look at it with each calendar cycle to see where it falls, and I know I've heard those concerns also. I've heard the other concerns, but it's good to review it each
Right,
year.
and that's why I think more of this discussion of planting the seeds for next year's discussion for the survey more. Not so much the spring holiday, Good Friday one, I just know that was an option some districts have done. So, and if we do it far enough ahead, then people will know hopefully not plan.
Oddly enough, I know a parent, and they said, well, you guys should just put those snow days on the calendar when you hand it out. And I said, it's on there. It's the last 5 days. And she was like, I just never noticed. I'm like, it's there.
Well, no, you made a very thorough calendar. So, thank you.
And just a clarifying question with the change when we have the snow days, it doesn't impact other things. I know someone said something about high school graduation recently, like nothing else moves, right? We just go to school one extra day, right?
Generally, graduation is a week and a half or 2 weeks before. It's usually mid-May, so
Okay.
it's not impacted if we go another day.
Okay.
Do they do like finals though after that one day? Like after they've been off that weekend and then they come back on Tuesday, then they have the last day of finals?
Yes,
Okay.
That's good, extra study time.
gets them ready for college.
Yeah.
All right, good discussion. Okay, are there any other items? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we could please have a roll call?
Sure. Mr. Nagler?
Aye.
Mr. Lesniak?
Aye.
Ms. DiDomenico?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Helderly?
Aye.
Ms. Sims is an aye, and Ms. Allman?
Aye, thank you. Next on the agenda is item 7, which is our financial information, and the board acknowledges receipt of the following reports: 7A, financial report, 7B, treasury report. Is there any discussion on either of those? Okay, item 8 on the agenda is the preliminary 8A is our preliminary 2025-2026 staffing plan. So I'll turn that over to Dr. Katalik.
Great. So I'm happy that we are at a point where we're moving along pretty well, and we're not seeing big fluctuations in our staffing plan from year to year. In fact, they're pretty predictable. So generally, they're based on what our enrollment looks like and sectioning looks like. And since we combined Tate Woods and Sheezer, it's been pretty level, which, like I said, I'm happy about. That's good to hear. The report that you have in front of you, the spreadsheet that you have, it's probably going to retire pretty soon. When this spreadsheet was built, maybe 10 years ago, we didn't have our Skyward system. And so now we have our Skyward system, which is our personnel system and all of that, and we can start to pull that information from Skyward directly instead of using an external form. And so I'm mentioning this because that's why we had the couple errors with the custodian. So they were entered correctly in Skyward, but they were entered incorrectly on this spreadsheet. So it isn't really an increase in custodians anywhere. They were just mismarked, and the person is actually at the elementary, and it was noted that they were at the high school. So we're starting to see that we have a better way of doing this instead of entering things twice, but that's an example why.
Have all the documents been corrected and uploaded to board
Correct.
books?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they're up there. So in general, what we're going to see next year is a decrease in 0.6 FTE English enrollment at the high school. And there were a couple questions on that, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just, why is there a decrease?
Right.
Yeah. I'll refresh your memory for you.
Yes.
I'll pull up the question in just a second.
So the decrease is we're decreasing one section at freshman, one section at sophomore, one section at junior. We are taking, the classes were relatively small, and what was determined is we could add 2 or 3 people to the other remaining 4 sections and still make it a perfectly typical size for Lyle classroom. So that's where the 3 sections are going, and that's why there's that decrease in staffing at the high school.
Okay, and that was the question,
Yeah.
what was the reason for the reduction in sections?
There's no
Thank you.
less offerings. We're still offering the same things. We're just able to do it in 4 sections and still maintain the Lyle class sizes that we want, instead of having the extra section. With that, so that there's no real increase in the staffing. We're going to add an instructional coach at the high school. So we're going to be trying this. This is something new, and we will post for this .6 position. We'll see if someone applies just for that position, or if we pair it with something in the building already, and then that creates some changes in who's teaching what. But it's a pretty exciting position, and we hope to see some great things from that. You'll also see a plus .2 in AP Music Theory. So this year, we did not offer it because we did not have enough students. Next year, we're going to bring it back because we have 5 students that will be taking that course. Again, in Lyle fashion, we have enough students that want to take that course, so we will offer it. And so that's where that's coming from, the plus .2. Any questions on the high school?
Just a quick question. What's the instructional coach? What do they do? Like, what's their day-to-day?
They will support teachers. They will support teachers with technology, pedagogy, learning a new strategy, working directly with teachers to improve their instruction.
So we have the model right now, Vinny Sloviak,
Yep,
Dr.
Sloviak.
Vinny Sloviak. We created it, it was just part-time. He had some availability because he was teaching some, and then he had some availability, and it was just so well received by the staff. And so let me give you for an example. We're seeing all these changes in AI. We're like, what do we do with that? Where do we get training for that? And then even if you go to a conference, you get a general idea, but a person like this instructional coach winds up reaching out to everybody saying, what would you like to do in your classroom? I know some great websites, some AI things we can do. What Vinny or this new person will do at the high school is meet with the teacher and say, give me some ideas of what you're focusing on. That person does the research, they get everything lined up, they co-teach it the first few times that the individual does it, and then at some point they exit out. It was something that the teachers at the high school said they're really appreciating what's happening at the junior high. Vinny's gone to the high school and done a lot of professional development. They're like, boy, it would be great to have a Vinny here. So we don't know if this is a permanent position, but we really feel like as much as technology is changing, we need somebody who can get into the classrooms, be able to model, be able to be, very specific as to what you want to accomplish, and then do the heavy lifting so that at very short period of time, you wouldn't need that individual anymore. We'll report back at some point towards the end of the year. When I met with Eric on this, I said, in my opinion, there's a lot of pieces to this. Number one, the staff needs it. They're saying, this is something I want. If the staff is just saying, wait, this person's supposed to come in and tell me how to teach, I've been doing this for, 20 years, I'm not really sure I want that. But the staff has clearly indicated they want somebody particularly to help in technology. So we decided not to call it a technology anything. It's more about instruction with a leverage of technology. Number two, it has to be the right person. We don't know if we're going to find the right person yet. We're very hopeful, but I think Vinny Sloviak does such an incredible job of partnering, collaborating, really coming in with what would you like to accomplish. It's incredible if you've ever met him as an individual. And so we're hoping to find somebody very similar, because even if they have the best intentions and people want somebody good, if he can't connect with them and do the heavy lifting, no one's going to want it. The thing that I had shared with Eric, though, and we're doing this with Vinny, is I want to know what they're doing. And so Vinny keeps a calendar that says, here's the days, these are the people I've met with, these are the things that we've covered. And so I'm very comfortable in what Vinny has been accomplishing, to know that we're getting value out of that position rather than creating something and having somebody say, well, no one's really asked for any help. And so as we continue to share with you where our growth is in terms of technology, we think we need this type of position, but we'll also be willing to share some of those things that they're doing, towards the end of next year. We'll make sure to talk about Vinny this year when we talk about AI and what's happening at the junior high and how he's had an impact in the district, but we'll circle back at the high school level to show that there's actually some value in this. So this isn't anything permanent. Staff's asking for it. We're going to try and find that right person. We're going to monitor it and see the impact and report back to you. To make sure that this is something we want to continue to do. We're also changing, I hate to use the word librarian, and I'm not even sure we use that word anymore, but at the high school, we're redefining that role too, that person's only going to spend about 0.4 of their time doing library work, and they're going to be the counterpart to this other job. And so they're going to spend about 0.6 of their time doing the exact same thing, getting into classrooms, showing what you can do with technology, and being a support. it's embedded professional development. I think we can all go to conferences, get some really cool ideas, but then when you go back to work, takes your day and you're like, oh, I didn't get to that. And so to have somebody who's willing to like meet with you, go do the heavy lifting, come back, show you, work with you, and then exit is what we're hoping is the best strategy for this embedded professional development, particularly in technology, but not limited to technology.
One thing too is, as a teacher, sometimes it's hard to try new things, and sometimes there's fear, and how do I do this, and what if it goes wrong? And the whole idea that if there's someone there to support you and team with you on that, it makes it much, much easier to try that new thing. So you go back and what went well, what do we need to work on? So the people that embrace it, it's really, really a great position.
You would have a line out the door if you said, I'd like to know what's happening at the junior high and how Vinny has made an impact. We're hoping to find another Vinny and have a very similar cadence in terms of the growth that we've seen in utilization of technology, because it's changing so much, and Trent's incredible for what Trent does, but that's not his wheelhouse. He's the boxes and wire guy. He makes sure everything's up and running. You really need somebody now to be able to focus on what we can do with technology and instructional practices. And so we'll share more information as we try and find that right person. And if we're not finding the right person, we're not going to have the job just to have the job.
Just to clarify, like the the assistant principal of a curriculum, like that's not something that's in their realm.
There's a lot of overlap with that. The assistant principal spends time in classrooms, particularly at the high school. The department heads spend time in classrooms, but the day-to-day doesn't allow them to really be able to meet with teachers. What do you want to do the research, help set up the lesson plan, co-teach with them so that they're feeling comfortable. There's just not enough hours in the day for that.
I think, like, as an aside, I'm quite familiar with this role. I serve as an instructional coach. And the non-evaluative nature of the role is really important, especially when you are trying something new. When you can partner with somebody who is like on your side to be a thought partner, a researcher, also could model. And that's a very vulnerable space for a teacher to be in, to sort of invite that professional learning. But it has the most profound impact and it's the fastest way to get change in an institution.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because I gave a little bit of pushback in the beginning thinking, what do the department heads do then? But to have a relationship with your evaluator, be it the assistant principal or the department head, is a different conversation, because as much as we'd like to think you'll know when I'm doing your evaluation, if you make yourself too vulnerable doing these conversations, trying something new and seeing failure, you can do that with an instructional coach. I'm told that's not as easily done when it's your evaluator, and Paula, you can speak specifically to that. I've not been in that circumstance.
It truly is just a fact. But in addition, what I have noticed is a trend too of new teachers. I sit on a lot of interviews. It's an ask of new teachers. What is your mentorship and coaching program? Is like one of the universities must be helping, because it's the same question over and over. But that's definitely an ask of teachers. So I think, like you said, teachers are definitely asking for it and appreciative of it.
And I think change is probably difficult for most people, not just teachers. I appreciate looking into a way, especially technology. Technology is changing so quickly. Technology assists education and other jobs, changing jobs to be more effective. So I really like this, to find this Vinny, or maybe he has a cousin, who knows? So good luck in that search.
Favorite movie?
Yeah, it's been we've had instructional coaches in my world for quite a while, and it's been an extremely effective role. I think that a good word for it is current, because we're always looking to stay current with education and on top of all the changes. And that's a primary role of an instructional coach, is to stay current with best practices to meet the needs of students, and along the way helping teachers to hone their craft. As Paula, you put it most eloquently, in a kind of a safe space, because you're unsure, you want to make sure that you put your best foot forward, but teaching's performing live without a net. So you go with it, and then you're like, did this work or did this not work? So having somebody in your corner to kind of help guide you through that process is definitely helpful.
And they have it embedded in what you're currently doing in your current day. It doesn't fall outside, and it isn't a theory. This is literally, servant leadership might be the right word. Somebody coming in and saying, how can I help? What would you like to do? Let me do some research. I'll get back to you by the end of the week. These are the things that I found. Let's give this a try, rather than just saying, oh, have you tried chat before? Like, that, what do I do with that? Like, I got to get back to class. I got to teach. Can somebody help? And so the staff has asked for help. This is our way of giving it a try beyond just the junior high, because Vinny's doing an incredible job and he's met with the other schools. There's just not enough Vinny to go around.
I think we've all heard the success that Vinny's had in his programs and with the staff at the junior high, and I think instructional design is very different from curriculum content. So they're almost like two things that have to be merged, but this is a position that would help that merger, so.
Okay.
Any other questions on that?
All right, one more. Sorry, I'm just learning about this. The goal of this, what are we looking to see as our outcomes? Are we looking, like you're talking about, like supporting the teacher in the classroom? Are we looking to see like a staff retention goal? Are we looking to see improved outcomes, like educationally on certain metrics that we have, like certain test scores or students achieving? And our graduation rate's great, so I don't think that's one. But I'm just thinking, what are we looking to say? Because you said we'll reevaluate next year. What are we going to use as our benchmark to say we reevaluated, this is what we're seeing, and this is why we want to keep it or not keep it?
So I'll answer your question, but I'll start with a story. I think when they impact you directly, it resonates more. And so just a quick example, I could give you a bunch of these. When I was getting my MBA at DePaul, I knew more about what was happening in the real world than the staff. And at a time, this is an extreme example, but at a time when PowerPoint was the most prevalent thing, they were teaching me how to use laminates at DePaul University for an MBA program. And those teachers lost us. And then in our web design classes, they were teaching us code when no one was using code. Everyone was using web design programs. And I'll never forget that professor just looking deflated and saying, I think at this point, I've realized my staff has gone, or the students have gone well beyond my ability. We are right at that tipping point. Our kids know so much and how to do things with technology. If we don't keep up with them, we're going to lose them. And so the things that we're hoping to bring back to evaluate is teachers saying, I've used this AI to improve how we're collaborating on this. I've made it very clear when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate. And we're still trying to find that gray area in between the two. To have the courses reflect what they're going to see in the real world and not be like technology's bad, AI's bad, and they get to the real world and realize it's a huge part of their life. Teachers are more than willing to understand that. They just don't have the time and the professional development to learn it, knowing that it's changing every few months, and then what do I actually do with it in my curriculum? And so these positions will have a heavy lift to be able to work with teachers so that we don't lose the students and become irrelevant. But the ways that I think we're going to measure it is to be able to have firsthand conversations with the teachers. Perhaps next year it'll be part of what we talked to you about towards the end of this year, what we're doing in areas of AI, but to have some success stories about working with this person. It made me, even as we're working, we have an AI committee right now. One of the teachers said, wow, when I'm unpacking it and trying to figure out what we can do with AI, I'm realizing maybe what I was trying to teach isn't as relevant as I initially thought. And so it's making them take a step back as what you're trying to accomplish, and is there a more efficient way in today's world to actually do it? And so having the Vinnies of the world are able to say, yeah, this is what's new, this is what you're seeing changes, so that we're not teaching what was the way of approaching things even a year or two ago. So that's a roundabout way of saying, I don't know the answer yet, but I do know we need to be able to share some stories about what we're doing in the actual classroom, or we're going to lose the kids. But it's so new to all of us. I don't know if there's a metric that says, you used AI this many times, you changed your lesson plan to make it more, like those will be part of it, but I don't know if it's a destination, and I don't know if we're going to get to a point where there's literally a matrix to show that, these things happen, therefore it must have been successful. But I would like to give it a try, because I think not trying, we're going to quickly become that MBA program that I talked about, that they just lost us. We they were teaching us something from years ago, and that was not the direction we were supposed to be learning. And the kids are so much further along than we are at this point. Professional development is going to get us to hopefully at least catch up to them, if not pass them. And it's going to look different at the elementary versus the junior high and high school. That's the other thing. Somebody needs to be able to help us differentiate when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate, because in our meetings at AI, we know what cheating looks like. We know taking credit for someone else's work is wrong. We know if it's an embedded part of what we're trying to accomplish, that's great. You know, maybe it makes it easier to take a lot of things and say, AI, find the commonalities and differences. What are the top 3 themes here? Those things can happen really quick as long as we've said it, but it's this 80% gap in the middle that we still have to figure out. And I think these roles are going to be huge in helping us figure out these shades of gray and when it's appropriate and not, and for us to communicate to students so you're never put in the situation where a kid gets in trouble and there's discipline, and then they come back here and they say, I didn't know that violated something. Like, well, we're coming up with drafts, but the next 2 years is where we're going to try and figure out where those shades of gray are. Again, talking way too much. I apologize, Kate, and
No, thank you for the additional
I'm trying to answer your
clarification.
question.
No, I appreciate the clarification. Could we, if we're going to do these at all the building levels, because it's a newer concept?
I don't know yet if at all building levels, but right now we have one at the junior high, and now we're moving to the high school. We may make our way down to the elementary. I don't know yet if these 2+ individuals might be able to backfill some of their time to the elementary.
Okay, we'll put a maybe in there.
Okay.
So we maybe will have these, if we have them, next year when they do their presentations in the fall, could they maybe share a little bit about like what some of their experiences are, just so we have a good understanding, and I think we can present to the community. Like someone like me that works outside of education, this is a concept that I'm not familiar with the day-to-day with, and just, I think that'd be great to really learn about how it's helping us so we can continue to.
And so I'm hoping it'll be a stepped up process. We had targeted, I want to say next month, to bring back information AI, and as a team of both administrators and teachers, we're just not ready yet. And so we're still planning by the end of the school year to talk about at least the draft, not of a board policy, but what the expectations are. And then having Dr. Sloviak talk a little bit about some of the PD that he did, but I think you'd really love to hear from some of the junior high staff and the impact he's made in their classroom. And then the year after is then where we can get a follow up on this point 6 and the change in the librarian's role to say, is it impactful again? And if so, then maybe we expand it to the elementary, or maybe we consider this isn't the impactful position we had hoped it would be.
I like the idea of the presentation of the outcomes, and particularly like the AI. I mean, you talk about cheating, what's that gray area? The other aspect of AI, I'd be curious if this works into the curriculum or the program or whatever, is teaching kids critical thinking when they're using AI. I use AI every day. It doesn't give me 100% right answers. It often gets me really close, and then I spend 30 minutes going, that was the wrong, that line there in step number 3 was wrong. And I say, hey, that's wrong. It goes, oh, are you using version X? Yes. Okay, here's the right answer, right? So teaching kids how to use a tool like AI and have that critical thinking on, going, it is not 100% correct ever, or many times. So it'd be interesting in part of those presentations how the curriculum on AI is.
And I think I've gone to a lot of presentations on AI. I don't think anyone quite yet knows where it all fits in. And so in many ways, to me, it feels like when computers first came out, we talked about computers and we're getting computers and computers are going to help instruction. And we didn't really know what it was going to become and how critical, and sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. And I think we're at that beginning stages with AI. So it's not all about AI, but I do think we need to have some in-house experts to be able to walk us through how we can use it in a way that actually improves instead of this thing we fear because kids might cheat, kind of like when the internet first came out.
I think even beyond that, that position can be critical to evaluating the instructional platform that's used at the high school. Make sure that that's compatible with colleges and what they're using. So
it's just amazing some of the things that you see now. It is a huge tool we currently use for teachers developing lesson plans, being able to say, this is what I want. Can you come up with 10 questions about this? in terms of, and I know there's some legal issues with this now, but in terms of putting a lot of information together and maybe getting a first draft of an IEP, because part of that is just taking so many, separate pieces of information. So it's never allowing AI to create and that be the final draft, but I do think it's really getting some of our nights back in terms of being able to create something, or at least getting a first draft of it. So we would appreciate your support with seeing the decrease in English. As much as I'd like to bank that money, I do think the staff is asking for us to support them so that students don't pass us too much with technology. And we think embedded professional development is an opportunity, but we'll bring more information to you when we actually find the person so that you're comfortable that it's not just filling a slot.
Okay. Regarding the junior high, the minor changes that you see there are to support the additional students that we're having coming over for sixth grade next year. So you'll see an increase in the core math, English, literature. They're able to manage science and social studies with the current staff. So that's the plan there. We will decrease a .2 math intervention position and fill that with the math for the sixth grade. So we also have a .6 English person that we will bump up to a 1.0 FTE to cover the new language arts and literature class. So it's an easy fill for us. Any questions on the junior high?
That was where my question was at,
Yeah.
but that was before the chart got fixed.
Fixed, yeah.
And so it looked like we were just taking off .2 of math,
Yeah.
but it's being offset by math, so it's fine.
Yeah. The last is elementary. Obviously, we've been managing the elementary increase in sections over the last few years. We are anticipating a decrease in kindergarten. Of course, that will be watched as enrollment happens over the summer, and if we need to add that sixth section back, we will certainly be coming to you, but we're predicting that we'll be able to go 5 sections in kindergarten and first grade, but that bump we've been working with is now going to be in fifth grade. So we're still down 1 section as it stands right now at the elementary, and managing that larger class at fifth grade. And so a total of a minus .4 FTE. As always, we will continue to watch paraprofessionals to see how IEPs come in and what's needed for students in that regard. And obviously, kindergarten is something that we always have our finger on the pulse on that one. So nothing crazy this year, which is great. Any questions? Okay.
I just want to make sure, I felt like there was some questions, and maybe I missed you addressed the difference between enrollment at a building.
Oh, that's right.
Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
There were many, many questions about the staffing, the numbers on the staffing report versus the enrollment report. So the enrollment portion is students that are enrolled in the district. So they may be in a SACID program, they may be in other programs that are not housed in our district. The staffing report accounts for students that are in one of our 3 buildings, period. So then we always do have some extra students that are in outplacements. So that's the difference.
So I do think we got a lot of questions that said on Linda's report, why is that a different number than the enrollment report? And you'll see on the totals, there was a number that was, what did we label them as? In-house, and that's a total. And that's the number you would see on Linda's report, and then outplaced would be if students had to go to SACID or a private facility. And so that's why, if you just picked up on the highlighted yellow number and said, why don't those agree to Linda's report? That's because Linda's is just in-house. There were also some questions about why do we think Lisle Elementary is going down in the number of students? And you can see on one of the attachments that preschool is starting to settle. We don't know for sure. It was a small amount this year, and so that rolled into first grade. And so it's really seeing kind of the bubble we lived starting to make its way through the rest of the organization. We don't know if this is the new trend, but we do know it's going to be a lower first grade and a lower kindergarten as part of the recommendation to bring those 6 sections in kindergarten and first grade down to 5th grade. We'll keep looking very closely at kindergarten. It seems like even this year's number was lower than last year's number a year ago, but we'll look at it very closely in the summer. I don't remember off the top of my head, but we do have a number that once we hit that number, that's when we'll add to the 6th section for kindergarten. And then on the flip side, as we talked about that bubble, as Linda pointed out, 4th grade was a large class. Now it's moving into 5th grade, so that's where we add a section. So 2 sections down, kindergarten and first grade, 1 section up in 5th grade for a net of 1. But we're not bringing you an instructional coach to fill that 1, so.
Okay, well, 8B is our overview of McKinney-Vento and homeless student support programs. I'll turn it over to Dr.
Okay.
Law.
This is a follow-up from last year. Last year I did a presentation and you guys said you wanted to have more information each year. So I tried to do a little bit different, cover some different things. One of the topics that I hear a lot is our numbers have gone up so much, which is true. They have gone up, but so have all of our surrounding districts. So I sent a survey out to all the McKinney-Vento liaisons in DuPage County. So every school district's required to have one. I asked them for their current McKinney-Vento enrollment number and their current district total enrollment. Most of the people that I reached out to responded, but not everybody. So on the sheet that I presented, attached, the one that looks like this, it's got, they're in order of percentage. So you can see at the top, the Hinsdale 181, they have 3 students that are McKinney-Vento out of 3,531 students, so 0.1% of their population. And then all the way down, for the school districts that I didn't hear back from, I was able to get their most up-to-date numbers. Now, keep in mind, these numbers change every single day, but every month, the Regional Office of Education will pull the numbers. So if I didn't hear back from somebody, these are updated from within the month. And then on the total district enrollment, if I didn't hear back, I pulled those numbers from the December 1 count that we do in special ed. So, so some of them might be a little bit off, but overall, they're pretty close. So you can see the highlighted line for Lyle. We have, at the time of this report, we had 70 students with 1,562 total enrollment, which was 4.5%. So we've got the very top of 0.1% all the way down to, you see West Chicago 33 at 15.3%. So there is quite a difference among the districts. And I was trying to look at, like, is there something that has to do with maybe the median income or, but you can't really pull that by school district. At least I haven't been able to figure out how to do it. You know, because they're, like, if you look at Lyle, not all Lyle goes to Lyle, right? So some of them go to town. So that didn't really help. But it's not also about the median income. There are other factors. So one factor might be, like in Downers Grove, they have that whole hotel on Butterfield that has been converted into a PADS homeless shelter. So all those students that live there, they have the option of going to school in Downers Grove, or they have the option of staying where they were. If I would have thought about it when I sent the survey out, I would have asked districts to also tell me how many cost shares they have. So if we have a student who, let's say Naperville 203 is where they were living when they became homeless, then they are doubled up or whatever in our district. They have the choice to enroll in Lyle, or they have the choice to stay where they were. And if they decide to stay where they were, then we have to provide transportation, and we split the cost with the district they're enrolled in and the district they live in. So we split that 50-50, and that's called a cost share. So Downers Grove has, in that one housing unit, there's over 200 students that are all homeless, that live in that apartment complex, or the hotel, the PAD shelter. So we've had students there in the past that we've done, the cost share with District 58 and 99. They don't have a choice. They have to share in those costs. And then there's a graph that goes along with that. This one, that one shows the enrollment over the years in our district. And then the last line where it says 24-25 with the asterisks, at the time of this report, there were 70 students in district that are McKinney-Vento. throughout this year, just this school year, we've had 86. So there's a lot of coming and going. There's some students who've been in the district for years who then become homeless for, a variety of reasons, and they want to stay here. And so they may not be living in our district, and we might be doing that cost share with another district, but we keep them as a Lyle student. There's other students who, move into the district and can move in as homeless because they're move into either like a Catholic Charities shelter situation or doubled up with somebody. But every single family that comes in, that if they have trouble producing the documents that they need for registration, they usually get routed to me, and then I work with them. And if it turns out through the process of, we have to go through trainings, and there's a whole process you go through with the families. And after those questions, if it turns out that they are eligible for McKinney-Vento, then I'm the one that helps register them. And I meet with those families every single year. So we're required to meet with them every 18 months to verify if they're still McKinney eligible, but I meet every year at the start of the school year. Let's see. There's another chart. I was asked if we could look at the breakdown by schools. So there's the second upload that I just uploaded tonight, the one that looks like this. That shows from the 1920 school year through now, and the number of students total, the number that were at Lyle Elementary, which is pre-K through 5th, junior high, and then high school to transition. So that includes our transition age students. So you've got the number of students plus the percentage for that year.
Thank you for adding that. I was wondering if there was a bubble or how this works. These numbers completely confuse me because there doesn't seem to...
There's no pattern.
There's no pattern. Even the increased size of the elementary school, it's disproportional, and then it suddenly drops in junior high and then goes way, up. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you kind of touched upon the transient nature of some of this. It's just going to be random,
Yeah.
somewhat random. So I appreciate the extra work that you put together. There's some additional insight into the situation of our homeless students.
Yeah, thank you. We've had students who have been eligible under McKinney for years,
Mhm.
and then we have students, we had one family this year, a student was here for a week, and then they're gone, so there's a lot of that transition. So I think there was a question also about what kind of supports we provide. Was that?
Yeah, I think just an overview. I know one of our board members wasn't here. You did an extensive report last year, but
Yeah.
Paula was new to that, so.
So the supports we provide are the focus of the McKinney-Vento is removing barriers. So we want students to attend school, we want them to participate, we want them to be involved. There's a lot of things that, we take for granted. Like at the elementary school, they had pajama day, and they do that for Spirit Week a couple times a year. There's kids who don't have pajamas, so I had a teacher reach out to me and be like, hey, we've had pajama day a couple times. My student hasn't participated. I've asked her. She said she'd like to. Is there any way we could get pajamas? So I was like, sure. So I contacted the regional office because all the funding for it comes through the regional office. It's none of our local funds or taxpayer money. It's all through the federal funds that we get through the regional office. So I contacted them and I'm like, hey, can I get pajamas for roughly 35 children? Because there's some students who, their teacher said they need them, but then they have a sibling who that teacher didn't say. So I'm like, well, if one child needs it, they probably both do. So I went to Target, bought just a variety of pajamas and met the nurse in the nurse's office, had the teachers send the kids down. We went to the bathroom, they tried them on, they got to wear pajamas for the day, take those pajamas home, so now they can do pajama day every time we do it, and it was all funded through the ROE. So it's a lot of the things that we do, it's the teachers bringing that to my attention. We do the typical things like we do toiletries, which is, it's become this very impressive process where Jen Malinky's class at the high school is very involved. They do the shopping, they do the inventory and the categorizing. And then if at the junior high or the elementary or the high school, if somebody has a student who, needs shampoo or body wash or deodorant or whatever, we just let Jen's class know. They put together a little bag, we send it over, and then they have it within a day. So it's kind of like our own little, resource store. And then Jen's students, keep inventory, and when things get low, they let me know, and we order what we need and keep things on stock, so that's nice. We've done some other things like, we had a student who was taking culinary classes at TCD, and she didn't have the black non-skid shoes that you need. which are like $35. The family didn't have the money for that, so we bought those. We've bought a lot of sports things, paying like either fees or waivers, and then they might need the soccer socks, or they might need, cleats, or they might need wrestling shoes. We had a student who wanted to do cross-country, and we bought shoes for him. He went to state. So those things wouldn't have happened otherwise. So a lot of the things that we do, it's removing those barriers so kids can excel and participate with their friends. And then, of course, transportation, which is, that's a requirement of what school districts are required to do, and that's not funded through the ROE. That's funded through us. And it is a complicated process, but it's required. And we know that when a student changes schools mid-year, they can lose the equivalent of a month of education. So it's really important that we keep that the stability in their enrollment.
Great, thank you, Jen. Anyone else with that? Okay, thank you.
No, thank you again for putting this together. I mean, I think this being an annual report's great.
Got it on my calendar for next year. And if there's anything specific you want to know, just let me know and I'll pull that.
Okay, thank you again, Jen. 8C is our Freedom of Information requests, and those have been in the packet and responded to. 8D, public comment follow-up. There was none from last month. And it brings us to 8E, which is our superintendent's report.
This is always so hard to write because, in any given month, so many things are happening. I'm sure you're all on the emails that go out every single week from the principals. And so what we ask them to do is highlight just a few, each and every month to be able to include in the superintendent's report. And so today's is 3 full pages, which I won't read to you, but just kind of giving you a breath of some of the highlights. At the elementary, fire safety is always an important thing. I think we tell students time and time again, but they really enjoy meeting with a firefighter and having that individual come out and walk them through some very specifics. And so we're fortunate to have the relationship that we do with Lisle Woodridge Fire Department, and so they were able to come out and work with our students. At the junior high, we had a lot of positive competition results. Our Science Olympiad did extremely well in the regional competition. We've listed there as to how many 6th, 5th, 4th, and 3rd and 2nd places, and so we were really excited with their performance. But the varsity team for Science Olympiad actually qualified for the state competition, and so we're looking forward for them to be able to participate and show their best in the April month. I think it's at U of I. Anybody U of I fan here?
Yeah, it's at U of I.
It's U of I.
We have a huge U of I here, a fan. In terms of the music competition, Lisle Junior High Symphonic Band and Concert Choir both did really well. They earned the highest rating, but Symphonic Band actually got a perfect score, and so I think that's pretty rare, and so we're proud of our students' performances on both groups. In terms of the academic excellence, for those of you who are relatively new to having either high schoolers or being on the board, we had a period of time where we only had 10 seats, and the students all fought for those 10 seats, and that really didn't align with what we wanted as an organization. And so we set a threshold that said, if you can meet this threshold, ideally we want every single student to be able to participate. And so we're proud to see that 14 students will be joining us when we recognize them in the coming month. Actually, it's, I guess, just over a month. It'll be May 4th. And then a real special part of that is they pick the most influential teacher, and their teacher actually talks about what, they see in that individual. And so I think most of you are able to come to that event. We'd encourage you to come because it's just really great stories about teachers sharing about their students, and then students why they picked, who that person was and the impact that they made during their time period. And it's not just for high school teachers. It's not uncommon for a junior high, or in some cases even elementary teacher, to have had that big of an impact that carried through all the way to their high school years. TCD, we have our A team. We've listed that 8 students were recognized at TCD, and so we're really excited about our students being recognized not only for the academic, but also, their drive and who they are as a person and how serious they take the work. And so listed there is the 8 students. And then we got to meet Delilah tonight about meeting that state competition. I know TCD does traditionally pretty well, but she was actually able to be a great part of that team and talked about tonight about how impactful it is on her and how she sees that in her future, which is always great to hear. In terms of the IHSA. Congratulations to Sydney Buchelt, who is recognized as the honorable mention with all of her work in All-State. Science Olympiad competition at the high school, they did incredible too. They're going on also with the state competition. CTE recognizes on an annual basis those educators that have stood out. And so Mr. Bamboat is our industrial technology teacher, and so he was recognized through a combination of TCD and COD as being an outstanding educator, and so we're fortunate to have him. In terms of state qualifiers, I won't read all of them to you, but you can see we have boys wrestling, girls wrestling, bowling, basketball skills, and DECA. And so I think for as small as we are, we've got an incredible group of students who are really showing what they've accomplished at each of those individual type events. And then the high school musical, Mean Girls, mixed reviews, it sounds like. However, I think it was really full. I think most nights, I'm always amazed to see what a professional performance those young students are able to make, no matter what the script is. And so it was really a great event. And then District, the Choral Festival was held on March 12th. I think many of you are also there. I take such pride when we're able to do these district-wide type events. It's so often on, grade levels, but that's one of those events that we're able to bring, from early on elementary all the way through high school. They perform, you see kind of the scaling in terms of sequencing how they grow over time. But then when you have those final performances, we're all on the stage together. I mean, it's just an amazing, amazing event. And then one of the things I didn't include, because it's still somewhat of a work in process. Many of you have probably heard, because I think we notified you, we had an event with a PE student about 2 weeks ago who actually was having trouble while he was in PE class. And so we had 3 of our staff. Maggie Pertel was the nurse, Rebecca Chapetta as our PE teacher, and Jason Lumsden stood up to what we needed at the time. They worked together as a team and provided CPR to that student until we could actually have the ambulance come. Even beyond them, just recognizing how the staff all pulled together, everyone had their role. We've talked about it regularly, but then when the actual emergency happens, how much of it do we remember? And everyone knew, all right, do this with your students, take them here. It was a very a day that could have gone really bad, but wonderfully everyone pulling together and the ambulance getting here as quickly as possible really made a difference in that young man's life. And so the 3 individuals who were most involved with the CPR really don't want the extra attention, but they've authorized us to have the fire department come out this Thursday. And so I was hoping maybe the board president, if you're available, Mrs. Allman, could join me and the fire department at 10 o'clock. Very small, not in front of students, not in front of the staff, but just recognizing that, in a day that we really needed people to step up, they were willing to step up and do their best thing. So we'll be recognizing them this Thursday. Again, very small event, just handful of people at 8 o'clock this Thursday in the Commons. But we're just so fortunate that we had the right people in the right place at the right time, who had the right training, and then the rest of the staff to be able to support. And in the end, everything turned out the best that it could have been, and the students doing quite well.
Great, and I'd be glad to represent the board in that. I know everybody would appreciate that, so thank you. Thanks for that update.
Well, thank you, and that concludes my superintendent's report.
It's excellent.
I
Thank
just
you.
want to add one thing for the Science Olympiad, that it was at COD, and both the high school and the junior high were there, and I was just very impressed with how the high schoolers and the junior high students interacted. Lots of fun, lots of mutual support. Just really, those high school students really shined, and I kept hearing stories about how fun the junior high kids had with the high schoolers, which I just thought was one of the remarkable parts about that event.
I thought it was really neat. They were in 2 different locations, like they didn't know each other's rooms or whatever. The high school students came down and found the junior high students, and they were helping them with projects and answering questions. They were kind of mentoring them, and it was just really neat to see them take that initiative and do that. And also, the junior high and high school both, they were just so well behaved. It was just really great to see them put out such a good, positive view of Lyle. So I think the coaches and teachers are doing a really great job.
Yeah, they were both their best cheering section for each other.
That's great.
Well, those are great stories. Thank you for sharing.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. All right, our committee reports. Item 9. 9A is the Facility Master Planning Committee did not meet. 9B is the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee met at 6:30 in this very room earlier today, discussed issues including food service and technology.
Terrific, thank you. Item 9C is policy.
We did not meet.
We approved some tonight.
We did approve a couple of
perhaps?
policies tonight,
Okay.
so thank you.
All right.
So
One-
long ago.
Yeah, and one of the policies we approved was the update to the cell phone policy, or an inclusion of a cell phone policy, and we may be hearing more on that. Paula and I sat in a webinar from state talking about some legislative changes, but it also may boil down to the fact that everybody's just required to have a policy, so I think we've got a good start on that. Appreciate it. Anything, Paula, you wanted to add to that, or?
I think you captured that well.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, item 9D is a Vision 202. You want to talk anything about that, Keith?
Sure. I think we've kept you up to date over the last few months of what we're trying to accomplish, but often the most wonderful thing about this community is our size allows us to have some real conversations. And so we had taken a break during COVID. We had had some smaller groups. We're trying to get a larger group conversation again. We've got a wonderful group of parents that are partnering with us to give us some feedback as to how we could best set this next one up. And the feedback has been just really focusing in on it being relevant, not having something that we think people want to talk about. And so tomorrow, we're sending a survey that lists around 10 items that'll go to every single parent that says, what do you want to talk about? You know, narrow it down to your top 3. And so after it being open for a couple of weeks, we'll look to see if, 3 really stand out, maybe 5 will, then we'll have to pivot a little bit. But ideally, if there are 3 that really stand out that most people would like to talk about, we'll spend the first hour, probably first 15 minutes, just talking a little bit about the school district in general, the things you would expect to see in terms of trends, demographics, finances. And then based on the 3 things people want to talk about, each of those topics will be about another 15 minutes devoted to each, so that'll be the first hour, similar to what we've done in the past. The second hour will give everyone who in attendance, and we'll mix up the tables, an opportunity to be able to kind of process what we said, see if they have any additional questions, see if, what direction would you like us to pursue, and what would you like for us to look into next. And so the list will be generated from parents' feedback. We'll invite anyone from the community who wants to participate. We'll put that on social media. If they also want to give us what their top 3 things are, they can participate that way. Just going right on line to be able to fill out that survey of the top 3. And then we'll also invite all of the staff. They were a huge part of the conversations the last times we've done this. And so they won't be involved in picking the 3 topics, but we're going to ask and encourage everyone, if they're available, to be part of those conversations, because having somebody who's actually an employee sit at the table and give some of their perspective, as seeing it firsthand, really adds to that conversation. And we're taglining it, what's next? We need to figure out what's next for Lyle 202. It doesn't mean anything that's talked about there means we can do something about it, but we definitely are looking for blind spots and would like to know from people, like, what's next? What would you like to see from your school district? Any questions or additional information? Greg, Pam, you're both on the committee helping behind the scenes put all this together. Things in addition to what I said you'd like to share?
No, I think you covered everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job. Thank you.
And when that's all done, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this, then there's like an open community meeting like we used to do, and everyone's welcome?
So on April 29th, everyone will be welcome to come. So it'll be
Okay.
one of those. We're just trying to figure out what do they want to talk about. And so that's where we'll have hopefully 3 topics that people want to come and want to talk about, and not come and say, oh, I didn't realize that's what they were going to talk about. So everyone's invited.
Okay, I just saw parents and staff, I just wanted to make sure it was like
Yes.
all community members.
All community member will be invited. We're going to send a postcard. If you have a mailbox, you'll be invited to the conversation. And then if you have social media, you'll see the opportunity to fill out the survey. It's just, it would take too long to send some person a postcard and then a QR code and then get the information back. We think, sending the email and putting on social media will give us a general idea what people want to talk about. But again, if you have a mailbox, you'll be invited.
Great, thank you for clarifying.
Good summary, thank you. All right, item 10, 10A is our home and school organization. The HSO council meeting minutes are uploaded. 10B, IASB delegate to board. Dan, did you have anything, or?
To start, I think we are now going through doing our IASB recognition. So I'll be starting that work, which is a report we do, or a submission we do every 2 years. So 2 years have flown by very quickly. So we'll be working on that with a later presentation I think we'll share later. The other thing, we had our division meeting on March 5th, and it was myself, Pam, who am I missing?
Kate was here.
Kate.
Paula.
Paula, thank you. And so it was very interesting. The keynote speaker was very interesting. Eric, I forget his last name, but it was really discussion about some trends and how they're looking at college and work-study programs in high school. It was a very interesting presentation.
Okay, excellent, thank you. I'd just add that Paul and I participated in a webinar on advocacy ambassadors, and that was on March 14th, and we learned a lot about legislation and what's pending. We didn't actually learn a lot about being ambassadors, but nonetheless, we have that background. Paula, if you had anything to add?
I just thought it was very interesting that, like, the emails that they send out is like a nice digest of what bills are coming out for us to be aware of, as they will impact our policy and our decision making. But what they did then was share multiple perspectives on ways that you might think about how it's going to impact your district. And of course, every district is going to be impacted differently by the legislation. So it's just like a helpful, I'm going to keep going and keep exploring and seeing if there's things I can learn from that to support our work.
Yeah, they were very good. That's what, when we were talking about the cell phone policy, and, you know, there were concerns about safety, security issues with students. You know, was it a concern if students had their phones, and just different things that are pending, and allowing students, of course, we had with someone's on a 504 or IEP plan. They were also adding in EL students in there. So, you know, we get, that's how we get the end result, I guess, is how it is. So it was good. All right, the other thing, just a reminder, May 19th, if you have that penciled in already, that will be our new board member workshop, and I think we came to an agreement on 6 p.m. that evening. So we'll do other reminders as it gets closer, but that will be with our new board. Okay, intergovernmental was our 10C, did not meet. LEND met this past Friday. Dr. Filipiak and I attended that call. That information is uploaded in the packet. Lyle Education Foundation did not meet. SACID did not meet. Which brings us to item 11 on our agenda, which is our board member recognition. So this evening is Steve Lesniak's final meeting on this side, I would say, of the hill. We will use it that way. And I think I quoted you from before. You want to exit with exuberance, I believe you said earlier this evening.
I didn't say I wanted to exit with the students.
That is it. But Steve is on the board until April 1st is our election, and so with the timing, he opted not to come back in April, which will be the meeting which we seat our new board members. So we wanted to recognize him. We will say personally, but I know as a board, we will definitely miss you, Steve. And I look over, and you're always that warm smile, that calming demeanor, your thoughtful comments, your educational experience and your expertise, and I know you are always committed to doing what's best for all students. So we appreciate that greatly, and appreciate all the time that you've put into the district. We have some parting gifts for you, lovely parting gifts, I would say. But one of the things, It is really heavy.
That is one big paperweight.
It is. And just flop it over there, Steve, but.
Not over the laptops.
Yeah, this is very nice. Stephen Lesniak, dedicated service for Lyle CUSD 202 Board of Ed from 2021 to 2025. So we thank you for that, Steve. Yes, and we're actually, you'll have to leave that, and we will have that put in over by the high school for
I think Dan wants to use it as a mouse pad right
the
now.
lesson. The other thing we have, Steve, is a plaque for you, a proclamation. It's our duty to have a
all right
proclamation
then.
for you. We'll call it Steve Lesniak Day. We can call it whatever we want, but this I will give to you, Steve, also, and I'll read it out loud. I'm not
Thank you,
gonna.
Pam.
You are
Wow,
welcome.
that's quite a proclamation.
It is, you'll probably want to put a load-bearing wall in your home now, so. But I will read it. I've printed it in larger print than could fit onto that page. But whereas Stephen Lesniak has served with distinction as a member of the Board of Education of Lisle Community Unit School District 202 from April 6, 2021 to April 1st, 2025, and whereas such membership requires dedication, effort, and unselfishness, and whereas Stephen Lesniak has served as a faithful guardian for the interests of students, parents, staff, and community members alike, and whereas Stephen Lesniak served on the Board of Education during an important time in District 202's history that included supporting instructional shifts and expanding communication, interventions, and options to implement a remote learning plan and mitigation strategies and protocols to promote a safe and healthy learning environment during a global pandemic, updating a district health and safety plan, expanding data-driven instruction, technology, course rigor, AP class offerings, and SEL initiatives, adopting the iReady program to better assess student performance, approving new elementary and high school principals and additional positions to support learning and interventions, expanding the roles of department heads and the communication coordinator, implementing Parent Square to ensure frequent, focused, and easily accessible information and updates, providing consistent weekly principal messages, Sunday morning at 8 a.m., supporting Vision 202 small group discussions, providing and reducing student fees, securing multiple financial grants, initiating and approving a new board member orientation guide, modifying position descriptions and the administrative compensation program, initiating a job salary and benefit review and analysis schedule, transitioning a new district maintenance team and adopting a new food service program, integrating technology education sequencing and a shared agreement for management information technology services, utilizing a continuous improvement framework to align district-wide work to improve student learning, adopting new math and ELA curricula and a new literacy program, providing additional accelerated learning options and dual credit opportunities, expanding electives and extracurricular options, and enhancing opportunities for career readiness, promoting academic excellence and receiving top recognition for school performance by the Illinois State Board of Education, Chicago Magazine, U.S. News and World Report, and the College Board, and the 2024 Thrive Award for a positive and supportive school learning environment, reviewing a life safety survey and facility security and educational adequacy assessment, updating a facilities master plan, selling Tate Woods, and leasing Sheezer, and promoting creative initiatives resulting savings and investments, negotiating 4 collective bargaining agreements, appointing a new board member, supporting school improvement plans, and recognizing student performance and growth in IAR results, AP exams, and PSAT and SAT achievement, updating board policies and supporting substitutions for PE and cell phone policy guidelines, addressing capital needs and a 6-year financial projection, consistently achieving the highest financial AA rating for Moody's and the Illinois State Board of Education, and promoting an overall fiscally stable district, amending and expanding intergovernmental agreements and community partnerships, and approving an agreement to further downtown development and school use of Village Hall for district office staff and board meetings. And whereas Stephen Lesniak provided outstanding commitments to the Board of Education as an active participant on the board policy, finance, junior high building renovation steering, and facility master planning committees, and as a board liaison to the SEAL and LEA negotiation teams and SACID Board of Control and governing boards, and in his contributions to the Lisle 202 Board of Education receiving its first IASB Board Governance recognition. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of this Board of Education extend their appreciation to Stephen Lesniak for his service to the students, staff, members, and citizens of Lisle Community Unit School District 202. Thank him sincerely for his efforts and wish him everything fine and good in the days ahead. Signed this, or dated this, 24th day of March, 2025. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. When I started on the board, someone said to me, it's like drinking from a fire hose, and that fire hose hasn't stopped. I've learned a whole bunch from my time on the board, and if things had been different, I definitely would like to extend that time. Unfortunately, life happens. But it's not goodbye, it's I'll see you later. Okay, so I really appreciate all the things that I've learned, all the relationships I've established and made, and all the things that you've taught me. It's really been a really amazing journey, and I hope to continue it just in a different way. So thank you.
The last thing I want to say, Steve, is that you understand the art of the pivot in both your personal and professional life, and I think it's the professional life that you're making this pivot for, and so I think you'll always continue to do that. So we'll think of you as when we hear that word pivot, so.
Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else have anything there? Okay, well, thank you again. All right, agenda items for future board meetings, item 12. Anybody have anything that they would like to add for future board meetings? Okay, if not, I will entertain item 13. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the security procedures, school building safety, and the use of personnel and equipment to respond to an actual threatened or reasonably potential danger to the safety of employees, students, staff, the public, or public property.
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call?
Mr. Helderly?
Here.
Mr. I'll take that was an aye, I hope. Okay, Mr. Lesniak?
Aye.
Mr. Nagler?
Aye.
Ms. DiDomenico?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Sims is an aye, and Ms. Allman?
Aye. Okay, we will adjourn to closed session at 8:57.